Hello, Ezzeddine. Thanks for
Good
joining.
morning. How are you?
Good morning. Well, good morning for Dubai. I'm in Los Angeles, just off of my 16-hour flight, but here and ready to go. So, Ezzeddine, thank you for joining us today. And maybe you can start out and maybe introduce yourself and what you do. Of course, I'm Farouk, and I'm the CEO of Zeroe. And Ezzeddine, yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And good morning, everyone. My name is Ezzeddine Jradi. I work with Emirates District Cooling. I've been with them for the past 11 years in several capacities, which we will tap into it during this discussion. But in the past few years, I've been focused on digital transformation and sustainability.
Okay, cool. And what does, maybe you can tell the audience just a little bit about Emicool and what you guys do, just for context. Yeah.
So, Emirates District Cooling, or Emicool, is a district cooling provider. We operate in the UAE, mostly in Dubai. We provide cooling. So, the product we sell or the service we sell is basically chilled water. It's a sustainable form of cooling, which is very much needed in the GCC region because of the hot climate. It's a sustainable business because it has a lot of components that allow it to be sustainable, such as energy efficiency, water use, and the economy of scale as well in terms of energy distribution and allocation as well.
Okay. And maybe, okay, so today's webinar, what we wanted to talk about today was, from the title is From Spreadsheets to Systems, While Sustainability Fails Without Product Thinking. I think we have, as we kind of evolve along the multi-year sustainability journey that has kind of taken us over the last 3 years from a lot of organizations better understanding ESG and sustainability and saying, well, we got to do something in this space, to regulations that are coming out and, forcing a lot of organizations in different countries to start saying, hey, let's do something, and then changing and saying, okay, let's do something less, or let's do something more, depending on the market they're in. To standards and frameworks that require people to do a lot of reporting, understanding, collecting data that they haven't been collecting before. Now, obviously, this is a journey for most organizations, but the real shift happens when that data is turned into something that drives change and repeatable decisions, right? Can you take us into a moment, for example, with inside an organization where dashboards were built, sustainability reporting is happening, and yet something still isn't working? And what is it? When is it that you realize that, well, look, it's not about the report or the dashboard, but there's something more there?
Yeah, well, Farouk, that's a very good question. And I think this is I would say, the aspiration and the nightmare of most people working in sustainability, which is basically moving the topic from compliance to actually strategic and strategically incorporating it into decision making. The challenge happened at multiple frontiers. Because in your sustainability journey, you go through phases. It could be starting with a strategy. It could be starting with collecting data. It could be starting with doing your materiality or double materiality. It could be starting with reporting. It could be starting with developing an ESG committee. It could be starting with expanding the sustainability team. But I think the transformational moment is when somebody across the line asks, so what? So we have our KPIs, we have our targets, but so what? So the thing is, what I want to say here is corporates right now have two types of fears they are exposed to: the fear of being profitable and the fear of being sustainable. So again, it's both fear, and which translates to risk. But the so what moment happened when, for example, investments are needed for certain targets or KPIs in ESG to move forward. For example, let's say employee engagement, right?
Yeah.
You're measuring it and you have a target, and which requires an investment. You have invested, the KPI changed, but for the business, what does that mean? So this is the so what moment. And there will be a lot of so what moments. And this is very relevant to the industry. So, for example, in our industry, it can be many things. It could be the energy efficiency, it could be the water efficiency as well, or it could be how are we mixing between potable water and recycled water. It could be the health and safety indicators. So, to answer your question, it is the so what moment, because I don't want to talk what usually happens in ESG, which is we need investment, we need investment, we need investment. Of course, to transform people, to change the type of decisions and how they are being made, you need to have a lot of so what moments. And so what moments could be looking at the past, whereby you would say, oh, we have been doing this for quite some time. The KPIs are not changing. So what? So what means what are we doing wrong or what we need to change? Or we changed what we have been doing, but we don't see the value or we don't see the impact. So these are very important things. And the way they are captured are at different layers. So for example, at the board, again, impact and value. At the ESG committee, it's impact and value with correlation to what's happening on the operation. Top management, again, budget allocation and how governance is being done and how it is being reported and reflected to the board and other committees in terms of impact and value.
How do you get these so what moments to happen? If you're a sustainability team in an organization, how do you get these so what moments to happen to other parts of the organization who at times are like, well, these people are just asking me to do more and get more information and collect more data?
Well, the most important aspect to this is, I'm going to borrow a term from the digital world, which is to democratize the understanding of sustainability, to make it understandable, digestible. So I know that a lot of people that work in sustainability, they think their work is all about collecting data, right? But it is not really about collecting data. It's about explaining the concepts in sustainability to the business users and to create an understanding of the relevance and to create the bridges based on the understandings and the relevance, how their decisions can move the KPIs that the sustainability team is actually capturing. And this is easier said than done, right? Because, for example, people in finance and procurement, in HR, or even in operation, they're already focused on what they have to achieve. They have their own KPIs and targets, right? But they might not have their sustainability targets. They might understand fully what they have to do, but they don't understand that what are the additional decisions that they have to do that will create or have an impact or will create a value to the sustainability metrics. So a lot of awareness, a lot of engagement, a lot of involvement, and you need to create a safe environment. And this worked very well in our organization, whereby the sustainability team created a safe environment where creating, for example, things which already exist. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel, but things like Innovation Week, where you create a theme which helps the people think not outside the box, but in a box which is more relevant to sustainability. So the ideas that emerge relevant to the business or what they are doing is encouraged through a safe environment, like Innovation Week or hackathons. This creates a connection. So people will think outside the box of their 8 to 5 work that they have to do operation and and we then help them bring back those ideas and study their impact and value. And then we show them how the needle have moved, which is the target and the KPI.
Because, I mean, ultimately, it's acknowledging that like sustainability is a lever of value creation also within an organization.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's a journey. You have to take people on a journey to do that. So you've written that sustainability leaders are really like transformation leaders. I mean, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. Can you maybe you just told us a story about an Innovation Week, but maybe you can tell us a story of when, sustainability stopped being about reporting, but more about how the business runs.
Yeah, well, in that perspective, I mean, I do have several examples. Emicool started its journey in sustainability quite a few years back, and I'm really lucky to be in such company that believes not only in the concept, but in applying the concept on the ground. So there are many scenarios. So for example, one of the evolutions of how sustainability became a pillar is our last year's green financing. So the finance team last year approached us and they said, we have a refinancing going on. We would like to make it green, right? Can you guys help us? And we said, we're ready. So this is the moment when you realize that the business users are not making a decision that is outside the box, but they are more comfortable seeing the platform available, their engagement and involvement, promoting a new form of decision making. So this is one of the examples. We are also working on other topics related to net zero, which also involves a lot of cross-functional collaboration, data collection, planning, execution. And a very recent topic, and this became one of my favorite topics, which is basically the compliance to Montreal and Kigali amendment. And that is also a lot of data, right? But it's not only data. There are many business decisions that needs to be taken. So there is a compliance risk, there is a strategic risk, and there is a financial risk to be taken, right? At the end of the day, an asset needs to be phased out, what you call it, some kind of gases have to be phased out, retrofitting has to be done. So we're seeing how business is evolving based on a sustainability risk derived from a compliance commitment. So this is a journey. It's not only compliance, because if you want to be compliant, it's an easy decision. But then again, to be compliant, there are sustainability aspects, there are business aspects, financial aspects to be taken. So these are all journeys that benefited from what the sustainability team has been collecting in terms of data, has benefited from engagement that have been done, have benefited from how relevance is being created to those business users. And the moment you feel that you're not going alone in any initiative that relates to sustainability in an organization, you know that the transformation has actually happened.
Yeah, because it's you're not alone on it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you're not the only one accountable, or you're not the only one responsible. You're a lever to help business users plug in a new format of decision making, or a new way of decision making, or to ensure new outcomes that were not previously taken into consideration.
It's funny. You're looking at it from a very strategic kind of, trend. I remember I've been thinking about, the more and more I work with sustainability data in particular, and that's kind of like the early stage of being able to use sustainability as a tool, a lever of value creation, right? We've talked about it starts with data and it starts with awareness, starts with buy-in, it starts with, then the data to make those, to actually start looking at things. What's been your journey to kind of get that data? Because I think, as we said, sustainability is getting them to look at things that haven't been looked at. And a lot of about sustainability data is stuff that hasn't been looked at or captured. Can you tell us a little bit about what do you see that journey like? Because if a lot of organizations that we're talking, that we talk to, and maybe some of the organizations that are here are maybe not making major CapEx decisions today, as in their industry, in terms of sustainability. You're a bit of ways on the journey. If we kind of go back to the beginning, early on, how do you handle that? Hey guys, this stuff's important. Normally it's just the bottom line dollar that's important.
Yeah, so it's not easy to summarize it, but I'll try to explain it in a simplified way, whereby it's not, to start collecting data, you need to go a little steps before that. So
yeah, take us to the beginning, because I know you have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, exactly. So I always say that people working in sustainability, they wear multiple hats, right? Data is one of them. Data is very essential and important, right? Data is like if we have a balance, it's like the one that says both sides are equal, right?
So, yeah. It provides truth.
Absolutely. So, but before that, on the right side of the balance is your understanding of the business, your understanding of the processes of the business, your understanding of the outcomes of decisions, because at the end of the day, sustainability data and transformation, digital one, they work hand in hand. And I think this is also a confusion that is happening right now, and probably we can talk to the audience about it in terms of ownership and responsibility. So when somebody makes a decision and a company is digitalizing those decisions, ERP, CRMs, whatever, it becomes a digital data, right? But at the end of the day, it's a process. Somebody had to make a decision, and this gets translated into data. Not understanding this part is a very big is a very big risk for the advancement of sustainability in an organization. So I'll give an example. Everybody uses diesel or fuel, right, for their fleet, whatever, right? Where do you save this data? You actually save this data. In which format do you save this data? This is the basic, right? Does your business use the diesel? So this is something that we didn't start even talking about sustainability. It's just an understanding that because of the business, we have to use fuel or diesel. And because of that, we have to pay bills. And because of that, we're storing the bills somewhere. And because of that, this is the set of data. And because of that, this is the only data we have. But when sustainability comes and says, okay, let's calculate our GHG emission. We need the fuel data. Okay, who has it? Who's capturing it? In which format is it stored? Right? This is
you have to understand the process to do that.
Exactly.
It's almost like and sometimes that process hasn't. It's funny. Sometimes that process hasn't been mapped, right? So no one's been paid. We've been buying diesel forever, and what we always care about is how much we spend on diesel, right? I mean, in your organization, when you buy refrigerants, everybody tracks it because you're business refrigerants. But in most organizations, they don't, right? Or they'll have a FM company coming and maintaining some of their smaller assets, refilling refrigerants, but no one's been tracking. They just pay the bill every month. And inside that bill, it's EC servicing. And then, well, that had manpower cost in it and a bunch of others. But it was just someone in finance posting that invoice. And you have to understand the process to find the data.
And they don't know about it. I'll give you another example. Like, for example, HFCs or CFCs, if you have a fire system, FM200 or another thing, also, you might be topping it up or you're maintaining it or it's leaking. There are facility management companies or fire system management systems. They are doing those maintenances. So they are captured as invoices. But also the person who's, let's say, keying in the invoices, is he aware that this data is very crucial for the sustainability team moving forward? So this is an unknown information, an unmapped journey. I would like to call it an unmapped journey for the sustainability team, that the management expectation is, okay, tell us, is our GHG declining or increasing every year?
That's the first question everyone's asking, but the real question that needs to be asked is, what are the business processes that are capturing the information I need to, or not capturing, and what changes or what re-engineering to that business process do I need to do?
Yeah. So this is an unwritten script that most sustainability team, they will have to go through. And now and if they're not technical, so forget about understanding the business, because for me this is mandatory, right? You can always rely on technical people in getting the data, fetching the data, structuring the data, but of course having that knowledge as well is super useful. Because let's talk about, okay, we go to IT team and we tell them, I want the diesel information. Okay, what will happen? What's the purpose? Because IT team will ask, okay, we have it, why do you need it, right? What's the purpose? Is it a data project, or is it a sustainability project, or is it a decision?
And now you're like, or is it a business process re-engineering project?
Exactly. So unfortunately, and this is basically happening because the UAE issued last year a requirement to capture your GHG, and I know a lot of companies are now struggling in where do you position this project? Is it in sustainability? Is it in the digital team, or is it somewhere else? And in my humble opinion, there is no single ownership to this project, because, as I said, it's who designed the systems to capture those decisions digitally, meaning, like, for example, the utility bills or the diesel consumption, etc., etc. It's basically who will fill the gap of if this information is not there, and then who will discover that this information is required, and then who will do the calculations, which this is where the sustainability team have to do their job, and then who will accredit and audit and certify that this information is actually correct. And then comes the reality of where we are today, and then the journey of how do we actually change things moving forward, or we transform them. So it's a lengthy journey. It's not just, let me buy a tool and I will do my ESG dashboard, or I will do my ESG report. It's a lengthy process, and many people don't realize it.
And a lot of organizations, it's like they haven't been doing this work, or they haven't captured the data. So now they start on this journey and they're like, okay, we got to start collecting the data. So they start collecting the data.
Yeah.
But if we're good at it, we understand the business processes and the systems around it and re-engineer them to be optimized in a way to capture the information we need. I feel like I go to business users outside of sustainability in some companies and I talk to them and like, they give us another sheet to collect more data. And that maybe it shouldn't be that way, right? It should be, it's like we just discussed. It's actually understanding that process and doing it and getting them, understanding that it's not just this extra sheet.
Personal experience, the structured data collection we created a manual for data collection, because I'll give you another funny story, which is, for example, we are collecting data this year from Department X. And in Department X, this year, the resource X is responsible for providing the data. Now, next year, same Department X, but it's resource Y. And this resource Y did not know what resource X did, because again, in corporate, people look at reporting as a transient or transactional activity without realizing the value and impact of what reporting can do. So last year you explained it to resource X, this year you're reporting it to resource Y, you get different results. So how do you deal with that? And nobody goes in Department X and says, you know what, since we're doing this on a yearly basis, why don't we update our standard operating procedure? Or why don't we agree on methodology, right? I mean, why it only has to be the sustainability team writing this manual of data collection, that it has to be this way, it has to be from this system, right? And again,
but you don't get, then it becomes it's a great key to change management, is getting others involved to develop the solution or the way forward with you, right? Because otherwise it just becomes another PDF that's emailed to someone. It's like, now you do this every month, and they don't understand why. They don't use the information. I'm going to ask, do you have an example of well, we kind of talked about an example, sustainability data used to make better business decisions that drive down cost or increase revenue?
Good question. So in our industry, the things we focus on are water, energy. Of course, these are very important. We do one regarding to employee engagement. That is also quite important. It revealed a lot about our industry, about our company, about our employees. We one more thing related to waste as well, related to health and safety. So the thing is, we are also lucky at Emicool, whereby not only we do sustainability, we are also we have ISO standards. So we have several ISO standards, which is also a management framework that helps you in structuring the flow of information and the structure of decision making. So that also helps a lot, having a system in place, right, whereby any gap you find in the journey of your sustainability journey, you key it in to the management framework in terms of enhancement, evolution, and stuff. So what people need to understand about sustainability is transformation, it's change management, it's evolution. It's not a one-time job. Things keep changing. So for example, in GHG, if you reach a level where you cannot reduce based on the levels you have set, then this requires you to see what other things can be done, or in some cases, if you didn't reach your target, why have we failed? So there is a lot of analytical thinking and strategic thinking also involved in sustainability. One of the hidden risks of being a member of sustainability team is discrepancies or accepting justifications, not just collecting justifications, because business users will always have justifications. The budget was not available. Procurement took a lot of time to issue the contract. The vendor didn't comply with our requirement. Excuses, right? But the hidden risk for sustainability team is basically making justifications or explaining discrepancies, right? Because in sustainability, to keep the needle moving, you need decisions to change. This year you did this thing, next year you did this thing.
Otherwise, you're just...
Yeah, and data, even though it's quantitative, but explanations are qualitative, right? So if you say my gender equality is standing at this ratio, right? It could be bad and it could be good, right? So data is quantitative but the narratives you create around the data is mostly qualitative. So and how does it link to the business. So this is also another challenge that the sustainability needs to do, and that's why being close to the business is very important. Understanding the correlation between the different KPIs that you're collecting is also very important, and this is when you want to move data reporting to data insights. So, and this is where the comfortable moment, when you think that I've established everything and now, I want to drive business into sustainability. So you need a platform whereby you don't need to worry anymore about data collection, auditing, blah, blah, blah. So a system or a platform or a tool could come in, and then you could focus only on analysis, insights, discrepancies, justifications, and understanding correlation. And this is data science, which is a very much important field in sustainability, right? To understand how you can help the business and how you can help the business users in moving the needle slightly or even more aggressively.
I think we've got some questions. Maybe we can take a look at some of those. So some of the questions that we have one that's from a data analyst perspective. Many sustainability solutions today address data collection and reporting needs. How does someone practically distinguish between a sustainability tool and a sustainability product when both seem to solve the same operational challenge?
I think that's a very good question. In a way, I answered a little bit of it in my last comment, but logically, when you're looking at functionality of a sustainability tool, you need to think about several journeys that the sustainability platform should allow you to have. Number one, it should cover where you spend most of your time, which is fetching data, structuring it properly, and making sure it's traceable, auditable, and ready to be used. This is a journey where I know teams and sustainability teams in their early journeys, they spend 3, 6, 7 months even to collect the data. So if this amount of time is shrunk into a platform that can do it in 3 weeks, that's a blessing, because now you need to shift to the other functionalities that are very important to the sustainability team, which is basically, how do I, based on the information I collected, how do I engage with the business user, equip them to create more relevance to the topics that are material to my business, and how to help them get more knowledge, information, and insight and experience to change the decisions that they are making. So I would say it's a combination of both. And I think for many people, the second part would become the most interesting part. And this is the part where the sustainability team will move from compliance and operational to strategic.
Sorry, I was thinking about this. In order to make decisions with data from a report or a tool, I think one of the things that's really been in my head lately has been context and granularity. If you go back to, let's say, at the end of the day within a sustainability team, let's say we have a very large operation with a fleet of vehicles working across different business units, a large logistics operation. And that large logistics operation has, of course, tons of mobile combustion and upstream transportation and distribution data. So vehicles being used and freight and shipping charges. And the sustainability report from a reporting standards perspective just needs to have the final numbers. And in order to make decisions on that data, you actually need granularity and context that at the end of the day, the sustainability team maintains after they've gone and collected all of that data in a tool to use that information to have discussions with the business. And I think when it becomes a product of a tool of change and a tool that you can use to drive change, but the precursor to that is understanding that in order to have that, I must have context and granularity.
Yeah, so to take this concept and to plug it to real life example is I want to bring in a real life examples. My team is small, but very effective and efficient. And there is a particularity about the sustainability team. When they are able to do it, this is the moment of real transformation. So if a sustainability team is able to reverse engineer based on the data he or she is exposed to and understand what business decisions were made, then this means you have a great combination of efficient and effective sustainable team, an integrated sustainability within the organization, and a transformation happening based on moving the business into a sustainable platform. So this is, I'm not able to simplify it more, but for example, if I look at an indicator which says, I think this, for example, my GHG went up in one of my scopes. And then I'm able to say, yeah, well, we had a refurbishment of a plant, which resulted in a lot of procurement. And this procurement happened not local procurement, but from external procurement, right?
Yeah.
If I'm able to do this kind of analysis and translation, then the system is working.
More than a tool, but it can allow, then you can start looking at it as a product. If you don't have it, all you have is a tool.
Yeah. So reverse engineering, right? And understanding what is the root that caused this indicator to happen. Not through asking, but through analyzing.
And through seeing that data and the information behind it and understanding, oh, well, we had 100 cars last year. Now we have 200 more because I can see that we had 200 cars and our fuel went up subsequently for 200 cars.
So when the business user comes back with the justification, you already know.
Yeah. Or you as the sustainability team are calculating something in your tool, and immediately I have a funny example that I always think about, which is an organization that had fugitive emissions that were very, very high. And when they started looking at that fugitive emissions data, they were like, brought it to the procurement team and said, guys, these numbers are astronomical. They seem wrong. And the team's like, well, our master data, they realized that the item codes being used to purchase things, because we were ingesting things at a most granular level, were being incorrectly used for different volumes. And as a result, they had to go back and change that earlier in their business process.
Well, another symptom you see is when the CEO calls you and he tells you, we are about to take a decision. Can you tell us how will this decision affect the data, or how will the data look like after this decision? So in this case, you really need a platform where you can do simulations based on the data, etc. And the granularity of the data, again, Farouk, as you rightly said, becomes very critical, because if you haven't seen a similar decision in the past, or you cannot find a correlation between a similar decision, then you will not be empowered enough to come and tell the CEO, well, it's fine, or this is the impact of this decision if it is being taken. So this is basically the responsiveness that having a platform and depending on a granular data could lead to.
Yeah. Let's look at some of our other questions. So if the future of sustainability lies in lean core teams focused on strategy, operations, and clear communication, supported by independent specialists during reporting peaks, this hybrid model might reduce execution errors and manage regulatory pressure effectively. There's two questions there. Would this hybrid model perhaps reduce execution errors and manage regulatory pressure effectively? Let's go back to the earlier part. What do you think on terms of, do you need independent specialists during reporting peaks? Is that something that you would consider an organization needing if they're right things along the way of their sustainability journey?
Personally, I prefer the knowledge and experience of the sustainability team to be very much aligned to the business, right? Of course, at some points, even ourselves, we outsource some of the work to consultants, but after outsourcing, it is very important to bring in the new information and the new experience to the team. This is very critical, because the consultants, usually, they lack several aspects that the organization or the corporate governance requires, right? So they deliver a project, but the integration aspect is always lacking as a deliverable of the consultant's work. So yes, you can use them to build the internal knowledge, right? And as I said, if you have a platform that captures the data, then your team or the team, depending on the number of the team, you can always gain more knowledge by learning more about specific topics. So for example, GHG, HFC, and the things relevant. But there are situations where you can bring in an expert, right? You want to build a benchmark, you want to create a baseline because they have a bigger exposure to the market, right? Sometimes, from what I see right now, a lot of the platform providers are realizing this value and bringing in this as a feature and a functionality of the platform. So it's a very broad question, Farouk. I hope I was able to answer, but yes, but understand why you're bringing in the end. But most importantly, whatever information or impact generated, it has to be transferred to the team internally.
Otherwise, the rest of the journey doesn't happen.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Which because then you can then have someone help you make a decarbonization roadmap, but then what do you do with it as a sustainability?
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure if you want to answer this question. There's a question out there. I'm curious to know about Emicool's decarbonization roadmap and main initiatives you're taking to reduce emissions. I mean, maybe it's very specific to your business. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll try to speak about it high level.
Maybe that's about the journey more than anything. How did you
So it starts with understanding your GHG scopes 1, 2, and 3, and not only understanding, because it's understanding and data discovery and relevance. Because, as I said, maybe not a lot of the people who work in sustainability might have a high alignment with the business, as we explained earlier. So first year, your GHG will do expect that your GHG will be a certain number. Next year, you will discover, oh, there are some data you haven't captured. It will look differently. And third year, again, until it basically matures. And here, going back to Sudarshan's question, a consultant would help minimize this gap. So for us, number one was understanding our GHG, where we are at, and then what can be done to reduce each scope 1, 2, and 3, right? Because, and this is very much dependent to the industry. So in our case,
depending on the nature of your business,
exactly.
And then not even within the nature of your business, how you are actually set up to run.
Absolutely. And in our case, I don't know if we can say it, but our main scope 2, our main contributor to the emission is scope 2. And this is very much dependent on the provider, which is the electricity, right? And other than that, the regulation does not allow us also to decarbonize our electricity. So accordingly, it is very much aligned to the decarbonization path of the electricity
of the market you're in.
We do have other levers, but the contribution is basically in the 8%
range. Maybe we can like look at wrapping this up, and we've been on for 45 minutes. I'm not sure if there's any other questions maybe they could come in, but I think I wanted to ask you kind of if you leave the audience with one mindset shift. Yeah. I mean, you've given a lot of mindset shifts. I feel like you've given us 4 or 5 mindset shifts through the webinar right now. What would it be? Maybe we could give it from 2 perspectives. I think instead of giving it from I'm a sustainability lead perspective, you can say give it from a sustainability leader perspective. But then what would be the mindset shift that you want your CEO to have if you're a sustainability leader?
I'm so lucky that I've already achieved it. He's now a very big advocate of sustainability, great engagement, great involvement. And we've seen it in public last year. And as a sustainability team, we're very happy. But how did this happen, right? How did we make it happen? Why is he now more comfortable? As I said earlier, that as a CEO, you have 2 fears, the financial fear, which is the profitability fear, and now the sustainability fear. So in terms of sustainability, what we've done is we relied a lot on reporting, right? But the way we exposed data, it was not in a, let's say, a policing or threatening or criticizing how decisions are being made, right? We showed data and we showed the trends because, again, CEOs, they follow trends. This is what they learned from the fear of profitability. They follow trends. And then when they got used to trends, we started educating the top management, in general, the corporate the corporate environment about why is this happening, how is this happening, right? Before saying that, let's change. So this is basically the journey. And then when people understand the whys and hows, and they moved into let's try new things. How can we do these new things? How can we, again, it's a form of a change management and transformation. It's more on the human aspect. So there is a lot of, let's say, psychological aspects behind these things, right? Why? What is it? What's in it for me? And we made it more about them than about us as sustainability team. So the sustainability report, it was showcasing what people are doing. This is the way how we promoted it. We achieved those results because of you guys, because of this, what you have done here and there and there and there. So things became more personal. People became more familiar. People became more aligned. So this is one formal perspective. So don't use data just to police or criticize people. Use it to form a trend, and then use it to induce or infuse new decisions, right? And then show how the new indicators have changed to support those decisions and to give people the comfort. It's the same thing like you make a toddler start walking. You need to support and then encourage.
Yeah, or teach your kid how to brush their teeth. I always
Kids brushing their teeth is a difficult example. I mean, walking should happen because they have to run around the house.
brushing becomes, but that brushing, they have to realize, right? You brush your teeth. I always looked at the example of like, you got to brush your teeth. You can tell your kid to brush their teeth. Stop brushing.
Build the muscle. Definitely.
You have to build the muscle, or they have to get the cavity and feel the pain, right? Okay. Well, Ezzeddine, I want to thank you for our time today. I think we've covered a lot of different topics, and we've talked about, I think, a lot of the conversations, a lot of the webinars that happen. It's what's this new standard? What's this new reporting requirement? What should we measure? What should we not measure? It doesn't talk a lot about how do you change sustainability within a company. And I think we talked a lot about those things, right? How do you deal with your leadership? How do you deal with operations? How do you engage with changing what data you collect, why you collect it, and so on?
Thank you, Farouk. Thank you a lot. Thank you. What I would like to say is we are also here available. We're happy to collaborate with whoever that wants to learn about our journey. We believe in SDG 17. So thank you again, and I wish good luck for everyone on their journey.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us, everyone.